What is up, guys? Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Kevin Crates. This is the channel where we go over to crypto news followed by 5 charts every day. Today I'm looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, CHR, audio, and AXS. And as always, if you're just here for a specific chart, timestamps are down in the description below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that bell on to catch notifications for all daily uploads. What in the was that yesterday? That was the most wild 24 hours in the crypto markets in quite some time. We'll dive into more detail when looking at the chart later, but to sum it up, when it comes to Bitcoin price action, it pretty much went parabolic, bringing up the entire market with it. And for those of you who did watch the video yesterday, we did talk about the fact that if Bitcoin can break 35K, it has a shot to go for 38K, but I in no way, shape, or form meant within the first 5 minutes of doing so. That is not price action for the most part that anybody can really see coming. I mean, I know there's a few people out there saying they saw it coming and they called bottom, but overall they could be singing an entirely different song in a week from now. As far as the move yesterday, that pretty much caught all of us off guard. There were some indicators on the charts that we even saw. We saw that it was a decent setup, but when it comes to Bitcoin for the last 2 to 3 months, whenever we have seen those setups, it has just been more downward pressure. So there is no doubt that that was the most bullish thing we have seen Bitcoin do in months. Now, Bitcoin is currently dipping and pulling back while I'm filming this. We're going to dive deeper into the details of price action when looking at the chart later on in the video. But overall, this is the most life we've seen across the market in quite some time. And that is just a reminder that all it takes is Bitcoin to just bounce back up just a little bit towards 35, 40K to bring this entire market back to life. But overall, guys, the market is looking at green today. Looking at today's headlines, we have Amazon in the news with a couple different headlines over the course of just 24 hours. Amazon yesterday rumored to be making moves to start accepting Bitcoin. However, today we have this headline: Amazon denies reports of accepting Bitcoin as payment. The article quotes an Amazon spokeswoman saying, "Despite our interest in this area, speculation about a particular plan for cryptocurrencies is not true." This headline, obviously a big blow to Bitcoin's price action over the last 24 hours. However, now it's just a waiting game. We're all going to have to wait to find out over the next 24, 48 hours if the catalyst in Bitcoin's price action yesterday was due to the Amazon rumors or if there was something else driving that. We have Tether in the headlines again. Tether executive said to face criminal probe into bank fraud. The probe is focusing on events from several years ago when Tether, a stablecoin launched in 2014, was in its early stages. The agency is examining whether Tether concealed from banks that transactions were linked to crypto, citing 3 people with direct knowledge of the matter. Tether was quoted with a response in the article saying, "Tether routinely has open dialogue with law enforcement agencies, including the U.S. Department of Justice. It is business as usual at Tether, and we remain focused on how to best serve the needs of our customers." And there's quite a few articles circulating about this at the moment, and I'm sure you've all heard it from somewhere else as well. But when it comes to Tether, this is pretty much business as usual when it comes to Tether. Tether is the largest and one of the oldest stablecoins as far as the crypto markets go, and that is why they're at the center of controversy all the time. And I know a lot of you have heard stuff parroted from other people about Tether not being fully backed by the US dollar. But for the time being, pretty much all stablecoins are being criticized for various reasons. For those of you who were here last week when we covered this article, I'm not going to go over the whole thing again, but for those of you who are new, even USDC has its criticisms that currently some of these reserves, including the money market funds, bonds, and commercial papers that back USDC, are currently treated as securities under US law. And in my opinion, this is not about Tether. This is about stablecoins, and Tether, being the largest and most used, will continue to be the target of all this controversy until the environment towards stablecoins changes. However, keep in mind, Tether does have its own audit coming out soon, and I hope that puts to rest some of the controversy surrounding Tether. And lastly, before we jump into today's charts, I just want to touch on this headline here again. We're going to touch on it every day leading up to July 28th. We are now just 2 days away from the SEC's deadline for cryptocurrency regulation. And I'm not going to go to too much detail about it. Just for those of you guys who are new here, as far as this goes, we are 48 hours away from some kind of cryptocurrency regulation news as far as the SEC goes. And that may or may not affect price action, but it is definitely something that should be on your radar. Looking at Bitcoin's daily chart, let's zoom in here before we even turn on our notes. Let's take a moment to appreciate what an insane move in price this was. Look at this RSI behind me here. This RSI has not been this high since pretty much around mid-April, before the market even crashed. That is an extremely bullish move. Now, we did talk about price action. If we turn on the notes and zoom in, it's a little easier to see. We talked about this 35K range being a must for Bitcoin to claim, and claim soon. in order to have a shot to push for 38K. Now, I in no way, shape, or form meant that it would push for 38K right away. Not only did it push for 38K, it blasted to 39K, and then earlier today it pushed up to 40K. That is absolutely insane, and there is no denying that this is the most bullish move we have seen from Bitcoin in quite some time. But let's just jump over to the 4-hour chart and take a closer look. Looking at Bitcoin's 4-hour chart, it is still in a decent setup. As long as it can maintain support above this conversion line around 37.1, it is a chance to keep pushing up in price. Stochastic RSI has come down on the 4 hours, and it may bounce off support here and go for a retest of some of these highs. Conversion line and baseline are nice and far apart, but the lagging span is starting to curve down on the 4 hour. If there is a pullback, I would watch for this baseline to kind of come up in price, which is why I kind of keep my eye on these price targets between 36 and 36.5 for the time being. But if those don't hold, I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin start trending back down to around the 35K price range, because it never really claimed that support for long enough, and it does make sense that it would have to come back down to test it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to. And if we jump over to the 1 hour chart, if you look at the 1 hour chart, you can see the conversion and baseline are kind of starting to head towards each other. The moving averages are crossing around there. The lagging span is coming through, but it's still not a terrible setup. It's currently fighting against this resistance level of around 37.8. If it can manage to claim that and get back above 38.7, then it does have the opportunity to push up in price. But what I'm expecting to happen is for price to pull back towards around 36.8, and then when 36.8 can't hold, we should see the pullback towards 36.5, which is my current target for Bitcoin. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen, because at the end of the day, what's been going on with Bitcoin is a lot of unpredictable movement over the last 48 hours. And we're going to jump over to the 1 week chart for a sec to talk about something we've been looking at for a while, and it is playing out. Looking at Bitcoin's 1 week chart, we're going to keep the notes off so it's nice and clear to see. We've talked about price action and what could happen as price approaches the Kumo cloud, and we're seeing one of those scenarios play out. We did talk about price action approaching the Kumo cloud, getting pushed down to 27K and then possibly testing around 22K. However, we also did talk about price action approaching the Kumo cloud and getting a relief bounce. Now, I did not expect the relief bounce to push up this high. We did talk around 35K being a potential target, but it shot way past that up towards 40K. But you can see here with this long wick down, we're still waiting for this candle to close, obviously. But as far as this price target goes, you can see the indecision is kind of stuck in between here, somewhere between 35 to 36K, which, so if Bitcoin stays in that price range as it approaches the Kumo cloud and can't push up in price, it should get pushed back down into the Kumo cloud, test around 31K and possibly lower from there. But this is a decent setup right here. So as far as price targets go, if it can manage to get back above 39K, it does have the possibility to push for around 46K. And if we jump back to the 1 day chart and turn on our notes, as far as price action goes in terms of turning bullish, there are a few different scenarios to keep an eye out for. One is over the next few days, can it maintain price above this range of around 38K, above this moving average, and then it does have the ability to get above 40K here, which would be right out of the Kumo cloud at a lower level, giving it the opportunity to turn very bullish out here. As far as sooner than that goes, it needs to get above 43K. If it can get above 43, 44K, and if we jump over to the 1 week chart and kind of line that up with the baseline up here, that would be around 46, 47K. But if it can push towards around here, 43, 44K, it does have the opportunity, and then most likely would push towards 47, 48K. Anything above here around 47, 48K is the most bullish scenario for Bitcoin possible. You'd also want to see the conversion and baseline cross back over on the 1 week, but you can see the lagging span here is trying to already pull back up. So there is the ability for this to turn into a bullish scenario. Let's jump back to the 1 day and turn our notes back on. The other scenario would be a pullback, because if we turn off the notes here and take a look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 green candles in a row. And this last green candle is showing quite a bit of downward pressure. Now, don't get me wrong, that was a massive move, so we're obviously going to see downward pressure. But if we do see a bit of a correction in price, that 35K support is going to be a crucial one to hold. If 35K can't hold, aside from that, the most crucial one is going to be around 34K. Because 34K is going to dictate whether or not this push stays inside of the Kumo cloud, which again is the most bullish thing Bitcoin has done since around May 19th. But 34K and 35K are going to be very crucial supports on this pullback. And if 34K can't hold, I would not be surprised to see prices kind of trend back down to the lower 30Ks. And the last thing I want to touch on, I'm going to turn off all these notes and zoom out, and also I'm going to turn off Ichimoku so it's nice and clear for you guys to see. It's still in this price range that Bitcoin has been in since around May 19th. Not to mention it's really got to get above 43, 44K. And if we turn back on Ichimoku as well as our notes, makes perfect sense with the Kumo cloud. The price will really get bullish above 43, 44K. Stuff like this is not something to FOMO over. This is too many green candles in a row. Don't get me wrong. If it manages to get back out there, that would surprise all of us. But there is plenty of opportunity out here as far as price targets go. But this is still in the range where things could shoot back down just as quick as they shot up. So if we turn our notes back on, I just felt it's important to touch on this because I see so many different things being said, especially when you see a move like this. I mean, people were writing short stories on Twitter about the grind of success as if they moved price action themselves. At the end of the day, nobody can predict price action. That's not what technical analysis is. Technical analysis is a game of probability, and you as a trader are playing the game of probability of outcome. You take a look at all the different signals and you take a look at all the different scenarios that could play out. And then as things progress, it is your job as a trader or investor looking for a good entry or exit as to play the game of understanding what the probability of outcome is that best suits you. And I'm sorry for my little TED Talks there, but I felt like it's something I should touch on because controlling your emotions is part of this game, and moves like this make people emotional, whether it's FOMO or whether it's you were someone who got liquidated holding Bitcoin yesterday, or you just made a bad trade because you felt like you were missing out. It's important to remember that this game is all about probability. And the reason I say all this is because where Bitcoin is right now is a bit of a coin toss as far as price action goes. It's moving in a very unpredictable manner. Yes, it's moving bullishly, but we have to take into account what has happened over the last few months as far as price action goes. So it's very important to be very careful of all the different scenarios that could play out and to kind of wait for more clear signals as to what's happening, because right now it is in a bit of a coin toss region. Yes, it did have a big pullback on the 4-hour chart you can see here, but it's maintaining support above that conversion line. But all it has to really do is drop down to that baseline around 36.2, and then if it loses that, it's a whole different game. But currently Bitcoin is in an area where it really is a coin toss. It might keep going up in price or it might come crashing back down, but it's important to keep that in mind, that as far as price action goes, and if anybody is trying to tell you they know for sure where price is going right now, they're not being honest with you, because there is no way to know those things. As far as price action goes, you just want to watch the targets that we talked about and then base your decision off of the probability of where it's headed. For the time being, if it can manage to hold that support above 37.1, it's in a bullish scenario. The higher above 37.1 it is, the more bullish things can get. That doesn't necessarily mean 37.1 is a safe zone. As far as price targets go on a pullback, you're going to want to watch this price range of around 36.3, 36.5. If it can maintain that price and then push back up to the 37s, it's still in a decent spot. As far as price targets go, that is what I'm going to be keeping my eye on. If there's a pullback, my first target for the time being is going to be around 36.5. And if we jump over to the 1 hour, we talked about this price target around here as well. If it pulls back to around 36.5 or 36.9 will be my first target I'll keep an eye on. Below that, 36.5. And if it goes below that, I'm going to be watching the 35K range to see how it responds to the 35K support that it just blew past. But as far as price targets go, that's really all we can keep our eye on for now. However, if it does manage to get back above 38.1, build support, it does have the opportunity to push for 40K again. So price targets for the time being for Bitcoin, you're going to want to watch that resistance level of 38.1, and you're going to want to watch that pullback towards 36.5. Looking at Ethereum's daily chart, if you look here, the stochastic RSI is sky high. The RSI shot up, but not as high as Bitcoin. And the reason I'm kind of shocked by this, if we turn on our notes and zoom in here to the 4-hour chart, I assume that Ethereum will kind of be outperforming Bitcoin as the London hard fork approach. And especially with this push in price, I kind of thought that Ethereum could take that to keep pushing up in price. But you can already see here, as far as the 4-hour goes, it's looking weaker than Bitcoin. And as far as price targets go, this support level of around 2,200 really does need to hold. And I can see here that Bitcoin is right now challenging the 37,100 that we just talked about. And by the time I'm filming this and done, who knows where it's going to be. But as far as price targets go, Ethereum's got to hold that 2,200 support. And if it can't hold that 2,200 support, I'd start looking for a pullback on the daily chart here towards 2085. And then if it can't hold that, I'd assume it's going to drop back down to that 1950 to 2000 price range. But if we turn off all these notes, I really would have expected Ethereum to be outperforming Bitcoin. And the London hard fork is really just like a week away at this point. So it really depends on how this all plays out. If Ethereum does want to outperform Bitcoin, you're going to see it take another push towards that 2,500 price range. It'll have to conquer that 2300 price range to begin with. And if it does that while Bitcoin is crashing, that's still going to be Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. But stochastic RSI is sky high on the daily. And as far as everything looks, it's really not outperforming Bitcoin. If anything, it's underperforming Bitcoin for the time being, in my opinion. So as far as price targets go, you're going to want to watch that 2200 support to hold. If that doesn't hold, I'd start to look for a pullback towards 2085. And if that doesn't hold, I'd start to watch for a pullback towards 2000 to 1950. And as far as a bullish move goes, you're going to want to watch Ethereum get above 2350. And if it gets above 2500, that is when Ethereum is off to the races. So as far as price targets go, 2500 is the main crucial resistance for Ethereum, and 1950 to 2000 is going to be the support for a pullback for Ethereum. Looking at CHR's daily chart, and the reason we're looking at CHR is because it is a decently bullish setup here. If you take a look at these price targets, I'm turning these notes on. Stochastic RSI on the daily has fallen down, but it does have support to keep pushing up in price. If we jump over to the 4-hour chart and zoom in here, it is having a bit of a pullback to around 30 cents, and you really want to see that 30-cent price range hold. Because if we come over here to the daily chart, this is still an okay pullback. Not only has it managed to push well above the Kumo cloud, it's trying to build support above the conversion line, which is a very decently bullish setup. If it can manage to push up from there, I would not be surprised to see it challenge 41 cents again, and possibly even 47 to 50 cents with a high of around 77. So no telling how high this could go for the time being. I mean, Bitcoin kind of dictates that, but this is a very good setup as far as price action goes. So I will keep an eye on CHR over the next few days. That 30-cent price range is definitely one I want to see hold for it to be a very decent setup, but it can drop as low as 27 cents and possibly even 24, and then maybe manage to make a push up in price over the following days. So price targets for CHR that I keep an eye out for is that 30 to 31 cent range has to hold to be extremely bullish. If it pulls back down to 27, even 24, not so great, but still decent. As far as resistance goes, it's got to get above 41 cents. If it gets above 41 cents, 47 cents would most likely be hit, 47 to 50 cents, I would assume. And then wherever price action goes from there could be anywhere from around 57 to 67 to 77 cents. But the major ones I keep an eye out for right now is that 41 cents resistance, and then a possible push to around 47 cents. Pullback prices of around 27 to 24 on the low end, but I would want to watch that 30-cent price range hold. Looking at Audio's daily chart, Audio is an interesting chart because it has managed to push into the Kumo cloud as well. A bit of a trend change on the daily chart, not very thick, but it does have the possibility to make a push. So let's turn on our price targets. Stochastic RSI is very low. RSI is a good uptrend going on. The price target you really want to watch for Audio is that it gets above 148. If it can get above 148, then there's a lot of potential here. It could push anywhere from 223. I kind of keep an eye on for about $2 if it can get above 148, but that is a very crucial resistance level that it's going to need to conquer around 148. For the time being, it's really got to get above 142 first, but if it manages to get a push going towards 142 again, 148 is possible. As far as a pullback target, you kind of want to keep your eye out on this $1 109 range. As far as a major pullback, you want to keep your eye on that 84 range. Anywhere below that, the setup might not be so bullish. If we jump over to the 4-hour chart, things actually look decent as well. Looking at the 4-hour chart, it is still a decent setup in price. As far as that 109 price target goes, that needs to hold to keep it above the Kumo cloud. Kumo cloud is also showing a decent trend up in price potentially, but it really needs to get it back above this price target of around 121. If it can manage to get back above 121, I would not be surprised to see it retest 145, 148. And if it can manage to get back outside of around 148, it does have the possibility to shoot for 150 to $2. But for the time being, I kind of keep my eye on these price targets. 109 has to hold. It could dip down to around 106 and maybe push back up in price, but you really don't want to see it go below 106. And as far as a pullback in price, I kind of keep my eye on that 84-cent range on the daily chart. So for price targets for Audio for the time being, it's got to hold that 109. If 109 can hold, it's got the opportunity to push up in price and reclaim that 121 around the conversion line and push up in price from there. But if there is a pullback, I keep my eye on that 84-cent range. Don't think it would get there too quick. There's a lot of support kind of around 99 cents, but on a major pullback, I'd watch out for 84 cents should hold. Price target for the time being, it's got to get above 121 to have a shot to shoot back up for around 141 to 148. Looking at AXS's daily chart, this is still such a decent looking setup. Baseline, conversion line, nice and far apart. Lagging span way back out there. It is kind of curving down as far as a pullback goes. Stochastic RSI is also high. I would not be surprised if it does have a bit of a pullback, but it does have the opportunity to keep pushing up in price. If we jump over to the 4-hour chart, you can see it's kind of bouncing in between the baseline and conversion line. If we turn on the notes, we have some price targets to look at. $36 is going to be the main one to keep an eye out for. If it can manage to get back above the conversion line around $40, I would not be surprised to see it claim claim $43 and make a push for $49 to $50 and above. As far as crucial supports, you're going to want to watch that $35, $34 price range. Below that, $32. I'd be surprised to see AXS go below $30. It is a possibility, but I don't expect it to drop back below $30 for the time being. If anything, I would not be shocked to see it claim $40 and push up. So as far as price targets go for the time being, $40 is going to be a big one that it needs to claim, and above that, $43. And as far as supports go, you're going to want to watch that $36 to hold, and if not, $34 to $31 would be the crucial support levels. All right, folks, that's all for today. If there's any charts you want me to look at in the future, leave it down in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn that bell on to catch notifications for all daily videos. If you're not following me on Twitter, _Crates_ on Twitter. I'm extremely active on there. Anytime you tweet at me, I will always tweet back at you. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I'm out.